We are live. Here we are. We are live. How are we feeling this morning? A little pre-show action.
You know, I decided to switch the vibe up. I'm standing up. So I'm trying to get a little action into the little blood flowing, maybe a little forcing a trade.
So truthful, I'd love to. Do you think standing up is going to force you?
I think that might be the thing. I think that might be the difference.
I am a big proponent of standing when you're broadcasting. I tell hosts that all the time if they can. You project better. You have better energy when you stand. Here I am sitting, but I'm a big proponent of standing. So we'll see how it works out. See if we get a trade by the end of the pod. Actually,
I'll claim credit for sure.
Sure. Another 15 seconds or so. Let people filter in on this Saturday morning. Beautiful here in the Northeast. How's the weather there in Los Angeles? I suppose exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's do this here on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook. Use promo code RTRS. Brought to you by Seat Geek. Get $20 off your first Seat Geek purchase with the code RTRS. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. And Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter. Get yours at statesidevodka.com. On the show today, Media Day is Monday. I'll spring an idea on Mike that we haven't discussed about Media Day. Doc Rivers puts his foot in his mouth again when talking about Ben Simmons and Rich Paul. Everybody officially hates Jerry Colangelo. Furkan Korkmaz releases the best hype video of all time. Talk about how the Sixers can be defensively without Ben Simmons and without a Ben Simmons trade. Ask Mike to rank Halloween candy. And in the mailbag, Matisse Thybulle tries to take the blame for the loss to the Hawks. Before we get going, two quick plugs for friends of the pod. First of all, Ryan Tennis is a musician who I only know from the internet, but it sounds like Jack Johnson, and he wears Ricky stuff all the time in his live feeds. And he did a new video for his new song Alligator, and he is wearing the blue Ricky shirt, one of the best Ricky shirts in the video. So check it out. It's on YouTube now. Ryan Tennis Music on Instagram. And also an email from Charlie, who wants to wish Maria a happy birthday. He said he became an ardent follower during the pandemic as he allowed the Sixers to occupy too many of his waking thoughts. This was in large part due to my dear friend Maria, who had been talking up the pod for months and was frequently one of the relatively few women to attend Ricky live events and a fangirl. One of the actual great joys of my life is to watch her discover sports fandom in general toward the end of her PhD program through the journeys of the Process Sixers. It's her birthday, so happy birthday, Maria. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I am Spike Eskin, along with a guy who has relieved the Sixers' big, huge problem they had on their hands is solved. Charles Bassey is signed to a 3-year contract with the Sixers. Congratulations, Mike.
It's over. We did it. We figured it out. They compromised, which I love to see adults do.
Yep.
In business. Very exciting. 2 years with a third-year option, partial guarantee in the second year. That's good. It's good for the guy in his 50s, and it's not too much. I'm fine with it. I'm happy. I wonder the third backup position. Is that you?
What, me? Oh, the lawn mowing?
Oh, it's lawn mowing. Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't
yeah,
sure
yeah.
what it was.
I'm in the fucking suburbs.
Thought
It's actually a
somebody
leaf blower. It's my neighbor.
Thought somebody with a hacksaw was coming.
No, it's lawn mowing. There's nothing I can do. I'll mute while you finish up on Charles Bassey.
No, just very interested to find the third center battle between him and B-Ball Paul. B-Ball Paul should be obviously the second center, which we've said a lot. But such is life. We are very excited about this third string battle.
Media Day is Monday for, I don't know if it's all NBA teams. I know the Nets are Monday and the Sixers are Monday. Wow, he's blowing some leads. I mean, they are loud. Anyway, Media Day is Monday. I feel bad for the current Sixers players who I imagine, like, obviously Sixers Media Day is going to be heavily shadowed by the absence, we assume, of Ben Simmons. And if Ben Simmons would show up, which we all don't think is going to happen, that would also be a lot as well. I just hope, for the sake of the players, that everyone gets their first Ben Simmons question, moves on. I don't know what the hell the players are supposed to say at this point. Most of them have commented. But it's for a lot of strange media days we've had and a lot of strange off seasons, this seems like it could be the biggest circus of all of them, actually, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be annoying. Embiid has not commented too much. He always does a good job of sort of saying what he wants to say and then getting out of there. Mm-hmm. But when he's going to be in front of cameras and microphones and stuff, yeah, I mean, someone's bound to say something stupid. Obviously, the best candidate is Danny Green, who invites it. But Doc's been going around promoting a podcast, which I didn't realize when the first take thing came out. I didn't realize that this is like, hey, you have a podcast now. Congrats.
Please, all right. Please don't insult the podcast though, as my company Odyssey made the podcast.
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't listened to it. There's nothing about it. It's just like
podcast.
It's just like, bro, like podcasts aren't cool. Like they're not cool. You don't need to do them. Like we got it. We're like deeply uncool over here. We've been deeply uncool for like 8 years. Like just coach the fucking team.
Well, but here's my position on it. If he wants to do the podcast, do the podcast. I actually don't have a problem.
Say dumb shit.
That is my problem. If this was not none of these interviews here, I wasn't planning on doing this here, but I'll do this one. So he was on Morning Joe for some reason on MSNBC. Yeah, right.
Why? What are we doing? Stop. Doc.
So the podcast is about great speeches in sports history. It's an interesting podcast. That said, if this is a planned media tour, he has to know what's coming, right? Like just thoroughly unprepared. And he did an entire season of like not burying anyone and just sort of like mostly just sort of like giving his finger to the media most of the time. So here is the audio of him on Morning Joe.
Podcast just looks fantastic. They're so well done. John Meacham's was wonderful, and I'm sure yours will be too, especially with you at the helm. Got to ask you before you go though. You know I'm a hoops guy. Ben Simmons says he wants out of Philly. Have you talked to him? You going to convince him to stay?
Well, I'm going to try. I mean, there's times that I think we're getting through. And then there's times that I think that I'm talking to people who still believe Trump won the election. So I'm not sure. But I'm going to keep trying.
Well, okay. So there may be a segment of the population who don't mind that comparison. Something tells me that Rich Paul and Ben Simmons don't want to be compared to people who think that Trump won the election. Do you think that's a fair estimation?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, what are we doing? Is he trying to sabotage himself?
I don't know, man.
It's been, if he doesn't want to come back, like doesn't want to come back. So like, it's not like you're convincing him of some special thing. Like, hey, look at the numbers. We're trying to get you to do this thing. Like, it's just saying like, hey, I don't want to be there. And Doc's like, I can do it. I know you like hate my guts because I've said some dumb shit, like the thing I'm saying right now. But like, I'm just gonna push through because maybe I got some speeches. Maybe I got some good. If there's one speech away from being able to like really convince him. Jesus, man. Oh,
and
God.
if he If the idea was to present publicly, if you want to get in this like sort of like PR war with Clutch and to present publicly, hey, we want you back, it's a very easy 1-sentence soundbite to do it. Yeah, it's super easy. It's super easy to do that, and especially something tells me I don't watch Morning Joe, but something tells me he's not going to get like follow up after follow up about Ben Simmons. He can give the answer and just move the fuck on. Like that's the one place where he can just talk about the podcast.
He was so excited to be like, actually, I'm on a political show, so I can actually make what seems like a little bit of a political joke at my expense and the expense of my player. And one of the most powerful agents in the league. I could fuck some shit up here for like a little bit of a subject, little topical humor here. And I'm Doc Rivers, and I'm wading into that water.
Yeah, I've said I think we've been on the same page that by and large coaches are, unless you have one of the really elite ones or really horrible ones, they're just sort of in the middle. And I don't think that the reason that the Sixers didn't win the championship last year is because of Doc Rivers. And I do think it would be possible theoretically if they had the right players to win a championship with Doc Rivers. All that said, the idea of being like this sort of neutral coach that does not add too much or lose too much is not to do shit like this.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yourself and your players in the dick. Like that would be as a neutral coach, I would say that would tip the scales in a different direction.
Like Nate McMillan's not on like Morning Joe comparing his second best player and Rich Paul to like the people they would like to be compared to the least in the entire world. It's just like, if you're just going to be here and collecting your whatever $10 million and canceling practices to go play golf and all that kind of bullshit, and you're just going to sort of show up and be famous Doc Rivers and, that kind of bullshit, then do that. But don't make things worse for the players who now have to answer to this shit on Monday and the GM who's trying to get rid of this fucking guy. I don't know, whatever.
And the fact that it's like all that the media tour is for promoting a podcast, which is the most stupid of all mediums. What are we doing here? And B, a very Scott O'Neil move. Come on. We got rid of this. We got rid of this energy. Tad, step in, Tad.
You know who did this actually was not a podcast, but the year after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, right as training camp started, Doug Peterson's like, I did it, like middle fingers out book came out. And it was all of that at the same time. It's just like, and at least Doug Peterson won the fucking Super Bowl. If Doc came out just sort of like dick out, middle fingers flying, if they had won the championship last year, it would be one thing. Yeah.
Say whatever you want.
So I thought I'd give you the opportunity. Media day is tomorrow. Obviously, everybody is going to get asked questions, all the players. I came up with a couple of ideas. I'm just going to give a few Sixers players. If you could ask them one question tomorrow or Monday at media day, what would it be? Like for Tobias Harris, my question would be, why do you look so skinny and fit in street clothes, but in your uniform, you look a little bit doughy? I've never seen a player have such an enormous split between how they look in street clothes and how they look in their uniform. If you had one question for Tobias Harris.
It's an interesting observation. I don't know that I would ask it, but it's an interesting observation. I would ask the question of like the we keep asking of like for Tobias, the weakness, like why are you shooting fast? Like you're a good shooter. You need to get up more threes per game than you are. You need to get them up faster. And you did in the first half of the season, and then you stopped doing it. It seemed like you kind of devolved back into the thing. You had a great season, but for the health of the offense as a whole, it seems like it'd be important for you to hoist more regularly and with less second guessing. And he doesn't do it. I think Drummond is a guy, you have him on the list here. It's like, why are you, what do you do here? And also like, are you planning on doing like a
Kobe thing.
Are we dribbling? Are we handling the ball? Are we taking outside shots? Or are you just here to like feast on backup centers and stuff?
Before we get to the other players, let's talk about our sponsor, SeatGeek. Now, I don't often go to the notes that they send us for the ads. I love SeatGeek. I think it's a really, really great service, right? Like there are millions of different ticket sites and they are sort of confusing, and SeatGeek aggregating them into one place and telling you if it's a good price or not. That's a really good service. But I happened to look at the notes they gave us, and let me give you the 3 intro options. I figured you would enjoy this. The first one is brace yourself for an existential question. Has your butt been having enough fun lately? If not, that it's time to use SeatGeek. Yeah, little butt play. Second one, have you been treating your butt well lately? Has it been going to places? No? Then you've got to try SeatGeek.
Really hammering the butt situation.
Yeah, and then the other one is, did you know your butt has a favorite app? That's right, SeatGeek.
All butts. 3 for 3. Heavy on butts.
I do think
they know their lane, and they're
they
sticking
do.
to it.
So I was looking. I actually brought it up because I didn't buy the tickets yet. My Chemical Romance had this reunion tour they were going to do, and then it got postponed due to COVID. They're at Madison Square Garden, September 20th of 22. And I'm looking here on SeatGeek for an amazing deal right here. Section 216, they would be $120 each. And that is a 9.2, an amazing deal. Now I'm looking for a worse deal. How about this? Section 116, row 8. This is only a good deal. They give it a 6.3. That's what SeatGeek does. It tells you if it's a good deal or if it's a bad deal. And if you're not ready to buy, you can just keep checking the app. And if you don't even understand numbers, that's okay, because they color code the deals as well. Dark green is a really good deal. Red is a bad deal. Now that people are going to concerts again, going to sporting events again, you don't want to be bothered with all of those different ticket reselling websites. No, the only ticket site you need or app you need is SeatGeek. And to help motivate you, $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek with the code RTRS at SeatGeek.com or the app. That is $20 off your first purchase with code RTRS. You and your butt will enjoy it. SeatGeek. Download the app today. Danny Green, the one question I had for Danny Green is I would present to him the concept of the Danny and ask him who he would give the Danny to.
Yeah. I wonder if he'd probably be offended by that.
Yeah.
Danny is a guy. I'm keep going back and forth, but Mike O'Connor wrote an article that I really liked for the website, the RightsRickySanchez.com website, where he says basically the Sixers have not. They lost the meat of the article is they lost a very embarrassing playoff series 3 months ago, and they have not really made any material changes to the team. Obviously, Ben Simmons is hanging over all of this, et cetera, et cetera. But even without him, the front office hasn't done much to add anything new. They replaced Dwight with a similar Dwight player. Maybe he'll be better, maybe he'll be worse. But a similar style of player. And they added George Niang, who is a better version of Mike Scott, which is nice, but it's not materially different from the team that lost. That's putting like an awful lot of pressure on, or a credit to Danny Green to be like, and they claim to be saying like, we want Ben back. Obviously they want him back so they can raise his value and stuff. And it's not a long-term fix, et cetera, et cetera. But like, at least let's take them at their word and say, we want Ben back. We love him here. We want to give him big kisses wherever he gets in. But we just had this embarrassing playoff loss to a team that we shouldn't have lost to. And basically the only thing that was missing was Danny, who was out for the most of the series. And are they saying that you're talking to me? You're muted. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. The one thing I wanted to mention about Danny being out is that no one ever really talks about the fact that like DeAndre Hunter was also out and Bogdanovich was hurt too. So like there were problems on both teams in terms of injuries.
For sure. But the Sixers' taking them at their word, their main like front and center thing is like, hey, we lost to the fucking Hawks last year, and it was all because of Danny, and we got actually figured it out. We figured it out. We're better now, and it's just like I know that they're trying to do a Ben trade that makes sense, but they're not publicly saying that or doing that. So right now it's just we're running it back with the same team that had one of the most disappointing losses in modern Philadelphia, like since, at least as far as Philadelphia goes, like since like losing to the Panthers in the NFC Championship game. Like, what are we doing?
And Mike, I think Mike's biggest point was that like we expect to see margin stuff from Daryl, and even though you could easily defend all of the moves, and none of them were, well, I thought the Drummond one was bad. It does not appear as if there's any like, ooh, that's interesting, like that could really work out in a super positive way.
I like all those guys. I do expect that a lot of the young players will keep getting better. Obviously, I believe in Maxey. I think Shake will have a more consistent year. I think Isaiah Joe could be a part of the rotation. Matisse will get better, etc. And I think just like stability within the roster will allow for some improvement. And stability is not something this team has had, or Embiid has had his career. Mm-hmm. But like, what we just lost the Hawks, and we're just moving forward like this. It's just like, as much as I said the other day, just to mix it up, be like, what if Ben comes back and it's great, and what if everyone like does the thing, just to like mix it up thought wise to as far as like hopefulness goes. Like, there's no reason to expect that would happen. There's no reason to expect that Tobias will change the kind of player that he is to be a more quick trigger guy from beyond. There's no reason to expect that Doc will adjust in the playoffs and at least have some different mode of playing when Joel's not on the court. There's no reason to expect that Ben's going to shoot. There's no reason to expect that Matisse would be a far better shooter. Like they're the same team, and odds are like they're not. The Sixers were a relatively healthy team last year, and odds are they won't be this year. Like there's someone is going to get hurt, and it's going to be worse. So it's just like, I don't know. The East has gotten significantly better. Miami got a lot better. I think Boston got a lot better. I think Brooklyn, if they're healthy, is obviously the juggernaut. Milwaukee just won a championship. Like the Hawks, who beat the Sixers, are a year older and seemingly also got better. Although I think they could just take a step back because development's not linear like that. I just don't know. I mean, like signing Korkmaz was nice. Like I like all the moves individually, but like I don't know how we can look at this team right now and go, they've fixed any of their problems unless Maxey takes that huge leap forward that we were talking about. It just seems like we're the same team that lost to the fucking Hawks.
I thought this email from Josh was prescient, given you actually just brought up your what if Ben comes back and yada, yada, yada. He asks, would you fire Doc today if it meant Ben suiting up and raising his trade value prior to the deadline? Spike, I know you're on the record for months saying Ben has played his last game in a Sixers jersey. That said, our best case scenario here is for him to come back and play until we get somebody who actually raises our playoff ceiling and picks for him. I also don't think Jock is a championship caliber coach at this point in his career, using his mishandling of the Ben situation as our reason. We could potentially oust him now as a sacrificial lamb and kill two stones with one bird. I don't think that's how it goes. What are your thoughts? I would not do that. I actually think that there is a chance that Ben suiting up could lower his trade value at this point because everything is so messy. I think him like stepping on the court in Philadelphia at this point is like almost like potential for such like enormous chaos unless he was willing to publicly walk back things. So I would not do this, though I wouldn't have a problem firing Doc. I don't think Ben suiting up is realistic at this point. You?
Yeah, I agree that I don't think it's realistic. If in like a world where I could control all the pieces, like it's Roller Coaster Tycoon, I could be like, hey, fans, like be excited about it, and Ben like be better and be happy, and everyone just like, Ben say some like Dawkins quotes or something like that, whatever it takes to get through. But I think I agree that it's too messy at this point. Yeah, there was another point I was going to make, but I'm losing it. But keep going.
Josh's non-basketball question. I thought, you've I think established yourself as just sort of a bathroom habit aficionado as the pod has evolved over the years. Josh says, what's your approach when you take a soft shit in public bathroom and no amount of toilet paper in the world seems to get rid of that Sharpie? No toilet paper in the world seems to get rid of that Sharpie marker tip of poop that lives somewhere deep up there. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, I think be upset the rest of the day.
Yeah. I don't know what happened, but I would say maybe 7-8 years ago, that stopped happening to me. I just haven't had that, man, I just didn't finish like thing. Maybe it's been the way I've eaten, but I don't ever have that problem. That said, you just got to deal with it. I think it's just like it's a psych yourself out sort of thing. You don't feel it in there. You didn't get it. Stop wiping.
Hey, good for you, man.
Yeah.
The thing I was going to say, there was a Jackson Frank tweeted that like Ben Simmons is it's funny that I forget the exact wording, but it's basically like it's funny to look around at the Ben Simmons discourse and still realize that he's currently building a Hall of Fame caliber career, which regardless of whether you think about Ben or not as a player, like 3 All-Star games before he's 25 and second, an all defense team, the odds of him, especially if he finishes in the East, as I think Kyle Neubeck pointed out, of getting like 5 or 6 more All-Star appearances at least, and probably a Defensive Player of the Year, and probably a ton more all-defense teams and stuff. Like because the Basketball Hall of Fame is pretty just isn't pinching Bobby Abreu out of it. I think that is on paper like a Hall of Fame type resume, regardless of whether you think about Ben as a basketball player or not. But it's just, I was thinking it's just like we are right now in such a like Ben Simmons chaos phase, and I don't think that he should play another game here. I think it's too far gone and everything. But in the same way that like Kawhi's trade value was so theoretically low when San Antonio had him, and Harden's trade value was a little bit lower when he came in like out of shape. Like we're going to be past this moment, I would say, pretty quickly. Like obviously Ben has things to get better at, but like we're such the basketball media and like rumors ecosystem is such a like, what have you done for me lately? Like why now? Like right in the moment, like can't see really too far in front of us or behind us. Like his value this second is what we keep talking about. And I'm not saying it's wrong at the moment. Like it's very clearly that he needs to be valued higher for the Sixers to come away with the people that they want to come away with. But I would not be surprised if they trade him for whatever in 6 months, 9 months, a year or two. It's like, oh yeah, he's one of the best 20 players in the league again, and he's one of the youngest superstars, and people start whatever it is. Like every time, obviously he can only trade him for the value he has now, but it's just that tweet made it pretty clear to me. Like, man, every time it's what's right happening in the moment. And I think once we're past this, it's gonna be like, oh fuck, why didn't we get more for him if he's this good? Whatever. Regardless of whether you think him as a basketball player, I think just he'll go back to the guy that he was prior to this shit show.
Yeah, I agree. In this context. I agree totally with the value proposition. I agree that we are prisoners of the moment a lot. Yeah. And really it just comes down to like, the Harden thing I think is the best example where, he's lowering it by going to these clubs and blah, 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 blah. Well, it still comes down to, do you want James Harden or not? Yeah. I think the context that's missing from that tweet about like him building a Hall of Fame career, and I don't know that it's like untrue, but if he were to continue this trajectory, if we're saying that he's continuing the trajectory of like his all-star appearances and defense and all that, then we would also say that he continues his trajectory of like not improving offensively. And I think that his accolades would actually decrease. And I think it's possible even that his defensive accolades decrease and he becomes a player that nobody knows what to do with, So I think it's probably better than 50% from a Hall of Fame standpoint, but you can't say that this trajectory stays and this one doesn't. And of course, there's always the possibility that he figures it out and changes and all those sorts of things. But I don't know. Who knows? But I think
Prisoners of the Moment sounds like a metal album.
Yeah, a good metal album, actually.
There you go.
You heard Rebel barking. It's a good time to talk about Big Barker Dog Beds. Our sponsor, love Big Barker. Rebel's never barking when he's on his Big Barker because he's comfortable as shit. A real dog bed, the only real dog bed on the market. If you care about your dog's health, you will get your dog a big barker. BigBarker.com/Ricky. BigBarker.com/Ricky is where you get your Big Barker dog bed and also your Process Pup patches. I say if you care about your dog's health, because your dog spends so much time sleeping. And if your dog is spending his or her time sleeping on a bad bed, that will be bad for your dog's joints. And that is, proof is in the pudding. Dogs develop arthritis just like we do, especially bigger dogs. And sleeping on the right kind of mattress, a supportive mattress like a Big Barker, changes that trajectory. It makes your dog healthier. And I know you say to yourself, well, $200 for a dog bed is a lot. Right. But like this dog bed has a 10-year warranty, and this dog bed is actually going to keep your dog healthier, which is going to save you money in the long run. And really, the bottom line is your dog's health and happiness is the reason that you adopt a dog, to give the dog a great life. And a Big Barker dog bed helps do that. It's the only thing that matters. They're also sponsors of our Bark in the Park team, Providence Animal Center, October 23rd. Join our team, raise at least $75, get that Rebel shirt, thanks to Big Barker in this case. Again, 10-year warranty, the foam doesn't flatten, or they replace it for free. 1-year at-home trial. If you want to return it, go ahead. They'll even pay for the shipping within a year. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. Now I have to hide this thing. We have no CJ today. So I'm doing everything.
Abandoned us for music.
Yeah, Firefly.
What a piece of shit.
I know, real piece of shit. We got this email earlier in the week. I thought it was pretty prescient. Dear Spike and Mike, I'm getting pretty fucking tired of you guys talking about the Sixers, and it might be time to find a new primary topic for the podcast. I can't imagine I'm the only one who feels this way. I was very impressed with how Mike handled the unexpected pivot to the topic of Halloween in the last episode. What a pro. Maybe the Ricky could become a podcast about where you talk about holidays. It would be the only holiday podcast. To get you started, here's some holiday-related questions. Do you like trips or getaways on one of the 3-day weekend holiday situations, like President's Day or Labor Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, Memorial Day? What do you think? Are you a 3-day weekend trip guy?
No, I rarely do that. I feel like it's like a scam to go on the weekend everybody else is going. And so I stay home and feel like I'm getting a deal by not doing anything or staying in town. When
you stay home, I think a 3-day weekend feels so long. It feels like such a huge difference from a 2-day weekend. Do you celebrate Hanukkah?
Yeah, we'll light some candles, say some prayers, put a yarmulke on my dog, that kind of thing. Yeah, we do that.
I do not. My parents did a little bit, if I remember when I lived there, but I do not. Any takes on Valentine's Day? I actually like Valentine's Day a lot. People are like, oh, it's just, a commercial thing and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I guess, but like, you're not selling your significant other or something. It's just like an excuse to be nice to your significant other. I think it's a fine holiday. I like Valentine's Day.
If there was some sort of barter system on Thanksgiving or on Valentine's Day, where everyone is now negotiating on trading their significant others, that would be a different holiday.
Yeah.
I'm pro Valentine's Day. I think it's nice. I've had some good Valentine's Days, and I've had some I dropped the ball Valentine's Day. I think this past one I was in the heart of the pandemic, and I think mistakes were made, but I think generally it's good. I think generally positive. It's fun, and I like Galentine's Day when single folks can get together and say fuck anybody in a relationship. I think that's good for them too.
Yeah, always good for a little bitterness. I think a holiday that capitalizes on bitterness. And then I added this. I wanted just a quick. I guess I'd like you to scale on 1 to 10 with the 1/10 decimal system. I took the most popular Halloween candies of 2019, and I want you to give it a 1 through 10. Snickers.
I have peanut allergy, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll score Snickers as a 7-8. Milky Way.
4.5.
Wow. I think there's no reason to eat a Milky Way. You should just eat a Snickers unless you have a peanut allergy. Kit Kat.
I don't like that it's like sort of like a little chalky, like a little grind, a little too much eating like coffee beans. So I'll go 3.5 for Kit Kat.
That's so low. I'm just gonna give it a 5.2. $100,000.
I remember liking. I haven't had 100 grand in maybe 20 years. I remember liking it and then having like a weird allergy thing to it. This is not a fun game for people with allergies.
Yeah.
I'll give it 100 grand. 4-1.
I'm gonna give it an 8-8. I think it's a great. You're scoring 1 to 10, right? I mean,
That's right.
Your scores are so low. All right, Skittles.
I don't like Skittles. I know people like them. I never liked Skittles. I think Skittles are not very good. I'll give it I like a sour Skittle. I think a sour Skittle is pretty good. So for sour Skittles, I'll bump it up to like a 3.8.
I'm gonna give Skittles a 5-6. Reese's peanut butter cups. You can't. I mean, it's a 9. A 9.
But give me a Justin's dark chocolate almond butter cup.
Yeah.
Give me that's a 10, baby.
Okay, there you go. Then I sort of get your concept of where you would be on Reese's peanut butter cups, which are excellent. Starburst. I'll go first on this. I think Starburst are an 8-3, and I rank them cherry, lemon, orange, strawberry.
I would go. Yeah, I would give them like an 8.8 for a Starburst, and red definitely the best, and then it's kind of a tie for second or third. It really is depending on what you do. I know orange gets a bad rap. I know yellow gets a bad rap, and people love pink, but I think they're all about the same.
Yeah, I think pink sucks. M&Ms. You're straight up M&M, the classic M&M.
I had an allergic reaction to M&Ms, even the regular ones when I was younger, and so I don't eat them. I never did. Sorry.
I'm gonna give them a 7.
I'm not the guy for this game.
7-1. Okay, I'll just do 2 more. Sour Patch Kids.
Oh, great Sour Patch Kids. My buddy growing up had a system of Sour Patch Kids in movies. When he would start eating them, I believe 27 minutes into the movie, it's the perfect time to like let them last for the whole thing, which I respected. But I think more than like 5 or 6, and you're hospitalized at this age. So I'll give Sour Patch Kids like a 7.5.
I'm gonna give them a 9-4. I fucking love Sour Patch Kids. And Hershey bars, straight up classic Hershey bar.
Classic situation.
Mm-hmm.
I like the easily breakable bar.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes it easy to handle. As an adult, I've morphed more into dark chocolate. I enjoy it more, but I like a classic Hershey bar as well. So I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, I think it's a really solid 7.6. I do like a Hershey bar. So there's a show called, what's it called? The Barbershop, and it's on Uninterrupted, and Kevin Love on HBO, and Kevin Love. Wait, hold on. Kevin Love was on it, and so was media's own Wanda Sykes. Funny story, when I got engaged and it was on Philly.com, it was the second headline story. The number 1 was something about Wanda Sykes. So that is my, and I think Jadakiss from the Locks was also on this episode. But the quote that is circulating online is, we get a lot of like, oh, you guys think you're right all the time, but like, look at all this shit you were wrong about. This one, I think, lines up for the right thing. Here is 1 minute of that was online.
Kevin's still playing basketball. Yeah. He wants to get another contract. So now these GMs are going to read this and go, wait a minute. He's damaged goods. I was like, this is fucked up for this guy to do this.
You weren't the only one. Brian called me, same thing, and was like, yeah, fuck that. You never, that's something that should never be said, regardless of what was said on either side and all of it. You just never do that, because there was no need to do that. And like,
that was my point. What did he have to gain?
Protecting his legacy. He wanted something to point the finger at if they lost. In case it didn't go right, which it was looking bad. It was just wrong in so many ways. And for me, I'm sitting up here being the nice guy right now, but honestly,
I'll do it for you. Fuck him.
Fuck him.
Fuck him.
Thank you.
Let me right to the fuck you, Jerry.
Incredible. Just Wanda Sykes looks at the camera and goes, fuck you, Jerry. Incredible. I've been waiting for a new t-shirt. I think that might be it.
That's great. Yep. Good for them. Good for Kevin Love. I mean, he's an awful guy. He's always been awful. People gave him credit for like coming up with the idea of like a team of really great players. Like, you could just when in like the 60s or 70s, you could just have like done anything. Like no one had done anything before. It was the first time for everything. And so anytime anyone like wrote something down or like did a jab step, it was like, holy shit, we've never seen anything like this before. This guy's a Hall of Famer. He's a legend. And then he just like got to do the like stupid fucking business shit and got to say like I'm Mr. Business Basketball. I'm Mr. Basketball Business, Jerry Colangelo. And then he fucking hires his kid and his kid sucks. And it's just like, oh my God. Just a trash guy who got here first. Get out of here.
And he made the mistake, what is it? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Is that like he just stuck around too long? Like if he had just retired 8 years ago or 10 years ago and sort of went off into the distance, he could have all shit named after him, like just like hanging out, like watching TV in Phoenix, getting up really early, heading out to brunch, all that shit, never pay for a meal. But he hung around too long. He's too power hungry and too just desperate for attention and credit. And it backfired. He lasted too long. And now he made like, He made Kevin Love Kevin Love, who in other circumstances, who had like plenty of bad, vibes on court last year and way overpaid and all this shit, turned Kevin Love into an incredibly sympathetic figure. Absolutely. And
I don't know why people just don't retire. I don't understand.
Move on.
It sounds so nice to like, there's so many generations of people that are never going to be able to retire. And Jerry's like, I'm still fucking working, baby. I'm taking everybody's jobs. It's like, what an asshole, man. Just go away. Like learn how to paint or fucking like till a land. Like go get out. Come on. What's happening? It's just, I just don't understand it. Speaking of the naming something afterwards, just a tease. I don't know if we should say it yet, but someone has come forward.
Oh yeah.
The
tease is what we should do
with the offer to name a bathroom after me, in a building. Yeah. That was, which we talked about a few pods ago of me getting one. I think you should only get one building or room or whatever that you're named after, and that's it. Jerry obviously has like a dozen because he fucking just like bribed people or whatever. But I'll only get one, and so we'll see if this goes the distance. But there's an offer on the table. So if you have other offers of other bathrooms or whatever to name after me, please come forward because there is an offer on the table. So we'll see.
A listener submitted Jigsaw before we get to the mailbag. This comes from Steve. Option number 1, Mike, you have to insist that everyone call you Big Dog. If people, including your family or partner, call you by your given name or another nickname, you have to either pretend you don't hear them or say, actually, it's Big Dog. You also have to sign all of your emails Big Dog. In informal communication, it's okay to sign, for instance, Mike, quote, Big Dog Levin. This is true for the rest of your life, unless you have kids, at which time you have to follow the same rules, but switch to Papa Bear. Option 2, from Tuesday through Sunday every week, you have to eat and drink only things that are roughly the same color, with each day of the week being a different color. So for instance, you could choose that Tuesday is red, Wednesday is green, Thursday is beige, Friday is yellow, Saturday is brown, Sunday is black. Monday, you can eat whatever you want. The outside of the food is what determines its color if eaten by itself. An apple is red or green, for instance, even though the inside is white. But if in a dish, all components have to be the same color, you can use food coloring if you want, but the sauces that don't fully seep into the food don't count. So you can't eat pasta with tomato sauce on a red day unless the pasta is also red, maybe infused with a red food coloring like sun-dried tomatoes.
That sounds too difficult. It sounds too difficult. I'm bad at colors.
Big Dog.
All my foods are generally the same color as like Spanish rice anyway. So like a red brown, but that would be tough to match it.
Yeah.
I'm going Big Dog. I'm Big Dog. I'm Big Dog now. I'm not Big Dog Glenn Robinson. Big Dog me. I think that'd be great. And it is fun signing off on an email with Big Dog. I'd probably say Big Dog. I'd probably call myself Big Dog to like my nephew or something like that. Or I like when someone calls me Big Dog. I'm like, oh, Big Dog. And now I'm Big Dog. Like that's a little boost.
Yeah.
So I'll be Big Dog, and Papa Bear will be a tough adjustment, but I'll make it. I'll make it happen. I'll tailor my personality around Papa Bear.
There's no way this will translate to how funny it was to me. But for some reason, my brother, whose name is Jason, my brother and I continually called each other Jeff, even though our names were not Jeff. And at his first job, which was at 10th Street Management, who manages like Motley Crue and Papa Roach, he started signing his emails. Papa Bear Roach. He started signing his emails Jeff Eskin, even though his name is Jason. Even his professional emails. And his boss called him in once and said, "Hey, somebody called up asking for Jeff Eskin. The front desk was confused. You got to stop this." And my brother's response to him was, "How about if they call for Jeff, you just send them to me?" And the guy said no. And that was the end of his run in signing his emails, Jeff Eskin. Before we get to the mailbag, Kornblau and Kornblau is the official law firm of The Process. We got a great email, I thought. And I thought it was particularly timely, considering I mentioned I got bit by a dog a few weeks ago. To keep it short and sweet, my dog got onto the porch when a food delivery came to our house by mistake and ended up scratching the driver. The whole thing became a nightmare with police reports and calls from animal control. Wasn't overly worried about liability. What happened, but the potential of taking my dog away terrified me. The internet was unreliable and had contradictory information, so I reached out to somebody I'd heard could help. I sent an email with a summary of the situation to Kornblau at kornblauandkornblau.com. Within an hour at 9:30 p.m., the man himself, Adam Kornblau, was on the phone with me, informing me of my rights and telling me exactly how to handle the situation. Mix in some Sixers talk, and it adds up to the only good experience I've ever had with a lawyer. Couldn't have asked for more. I can't believe how accurate the ads are. Appreciate you guys advertising for such high quality people. Sincerely, a Sixers season ticket holder since we traded Drew. That's a very nice situation. I had a similar situation in that when I got bit by that dog, like I wanted to make sure that the dog was safe, and I had to go to the police. But my big concern was I didn't want anything to happen to the dog. So Adam Kornblau, Kornblau and Kornblau is the premier personal injury law firm in the Delaware Valley. As was just proven there, when you email or call Kornblau and Kornblau, you get a Kornblau. It is not just a referral service. And he's helped out so many of our listeners with so many different situations. I know it's a personal injury law firm, but if you need anything in the legal spectrum, you reach out to Kornblau. He is your fucking guy. 215-576-7200 to ask for Adam, or email Kornblau at kornblauandkornblau.com. Kornblau and Kornblau, really just a genuine dude, been there with us for 3-4 years at this point. Awesome guy. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of The Process. This comes from Dylan. What's up, Spike and Mike? Disclaimer. I don't listen to JJ's podcast because I don't support turning a blind eye to human trafficking. But I came across this clip of Matisse on Old Man and the Three podcast, and I had to send it in. First observation, of course, JJ Redick sits there for an hour-long podcast indoors with sunglasses on. Second, watch the clip below in which JJ begins his prompt to Matisse saying, not going to put you in a tough spot right now. He then proceeds to ask Matisse if he thinks, quote, the Sixers could have handled the end of the last postseason better. He then goes on to say, from the outside, it seems as if the team threw Ben under the bus. Matisse is very visibly uncomfortable at the question. I just want to say JJ Redick fucking sucks, and no Sixers fan should like this poser. He's the complete opposite of a from here Philly athlete. P.S. Tommy slouching on the couch saying nothing is a perfect representation of what he brings to the table in life. I don't know. Did you hear the clip of what Matisse says? So do you want me to play it? It's a couple minutes long, or I can just sum it for you. What's your choice?
Sum it up.
So Matisse basically says at the end of JJ just fucking putting him in a corner, he says, well, nobody mentions that like I caused the foul that lost the series for us, and I got no heat at all. And I should have gotten more heat, and there should have been less heat on Ben. And I thought it was a good way of Matisse pivoting out of the question. But of course, he doesn't deserve the same amount of criticism. And what it made me think of is that you can be prepared for that question, as I imagine Matisse was. And as I imagine all the tomorrow or Monday at Media Day, all the players will be prepared for. But when you get asked the question maybe slightly different than you're prepared for, it just puts you in a situation where it's hard to answer sometimes. So I would recommend that every Sixer have one sentence that they're prepared to give about Ben Simmons. Something to the effect of, I love Ben, love playing with Ben, hope there's a resolution to the situation soon. And that's it. And don't try to answer the question. That would be my advice.
Yeah, it'll be something like would love to have him here, but understand he's got to do what's best for him and his family. We're prepared to move on with the team that's here. Whatever. Something.
Yeah. This comes from Franco.
But somebody's gonna say something stupid.
Yes.
It's an easy thing to say.
1,000,000%.
I'm sure reporters will some will like drill down and ask like some follow-up questions, and that's when you'll get the Danny.
Yeah, I think, we've had our problems with ownership and general managers and coaches and all that kind of stuff with the Sixers over the years. I would say that like the current communications and PR staff and media staff is really, really solid, and they've always been good to us. I'm always amazed, and maybe it's just that the players don't listen or care, but like if I'm not telling them how to do their job, but if I were you, I would go up to each player and just say a sentence. And if you get pressed, say, I don't really have anything more to say. And then the Sixers like media staff they're not like the Eagles ones. They're not just going to keep, especially a situation like this, the players have no control over. Just get out of it as quickly as possible. An email from Franco. On a systemic basis, how can a professional team that spends so much on player development and well-being miss so badly on potential draft pick psychological profiling? There is a pattern here with Okafor, Simmons, Fultz, etc. Is someone forgetting to check the box for unafraid of failure, obsessively dedicated to getting better? Seems like the Sixers really focus, until the Sixers really focus more on this area, we run a high risk of ending up with a more fixed mindset, mentally fragile players that end up getting dumped for pennies on the dollar.
I hate the phrase mentally fragile.
Whatever it is.
I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
There's just so much we don't know. I think Okafor sucked. He didn't suck because like he didn't have like the ability to like tough through stuff. He's just not. He wasn't good enough. He was dominating players in high school and like never adjusted or improved his game, or people just like put too much into the stock of like, hey, he can like bully some like player that's not going to play in the NBA in the post. So that's exciting, but like it's just not. He wasn't good enough. And random just shit happens. Like I don't know. I think that there is like, hey, let's get the sense of this guy. Let's find out like what this person is like. Let's talk to their coaches and trainers and former teammates and all that stuff. And they do like a ton of research, probably more research than we could even like really fathom. They talk to so many people because they're investing a ton of money in not just money, but like time and hopes and dreams and all that stuff into this person. Yeah, I don't think that. I think it's just weird shit happened. I don't know that like another organization would have looked at Markelle or Ben. Obviously, they're two very different scenarios, but would have looked at them and gone like, no, not mentally strong enough or something. I think it's just like weird shit happens. I think that it should be on them to think about that shit and be like, well, maybe okay, what do we do differently? What kinds of personalities do we want in here? And they should examine that. But I also don't think that like you imagine not taking somebody and going like, oh, it was because like our like very nebulous brain test wasn't good enough. Like imagine taking that's a reason you took like Evan Turner over Paul George or something like that. Like it's like, okay, well your brain test is wrong, bro. Draft the guy who's the most talented. So I think that there's drawbacks to it as well, obviously.
The thing about drafting is that you're basically trying to do calculations on millions of things that you can't calculate. Like really the only thing that you can calculate with these players are their statistics, their shooting percentage and their physical attributes. And everything else is just like this projection that is mostly coming from your human judgment of this projection. How much better can they get? All those. And one of those things is their their like mental makeup. And I do think that it's super important. And I do think that like some players, some people are more predisposed for success because of how they think and how they are, and like their work ethic and how they are around other players. Like this is a thing where you're stuck with 14 other people 6 months out of the year constantly. How you are as a person matters, right? Like it's not just about physical talent. All that said, you're doing this when people are 19 and 20 years old.
Mhm.
And who that person is at 19 or 20, I mean, I'm not only was I a different person at 19 or 20 and then like 27 or 30 and then now my age, every 2 years at that age, you end up becoming a different person. So it's just such an inexact science. I think, Hinkie talked a lot about valuing that when we had him on the pod very early. And for somebody who was numbers obsessed, I think he put a lot of value in that. But I do think that there was obviously a red flag with Fultz that Colangelo obviously ignored. I think that the Celtics knew something was wrong, and people internally with the Sixers knew something was wrong, and he just chose not to do it because he was terrified of the public reaction of doing something different. But things like Simmons, you can't know that this is going to happen. Like you can't, and he might interview well, like who knows? So I think it's a pretty inexact thing. And I think there's really not that many instances of them failing because of this thing. It's really just Fultz and Simmons. And I think Simmons, you couldn't have been able to tell.
And also like, there's plenty of examples of guys who are like, that's a dog. Like that's someone that's going to really do it. And then you're like, it's Dion Waiters. Like there's plenty of examples. It's not just like hard and fast, like draft the guy who can like, survive in in like a room punching his way out for an hour. Like it's hard to know. It's a very inexact thing. And I don't blame them one bit for going, well, we're going to draft. I mean, aside from the, if they knew something was wrong with Fultz, as far as like the jump shot goes, I don't blame them for going like, well, we're drafting the most talented guys. Like we're also at the time they were one of the worst teams in the league. Like we're not thinking about anything aside from like getting the most talent. And it worked for a while for Ben.
So final question, and this is related. So I'll do this, or it is one basketball and is non-basketball question. This comes from JP. If one draft decision from the past 7 years could be undone, which one would you pick? Seems to me the candidates are the Okafor pick, the Fultz trade and pick, and the Zaire Smith, Mikal Bridges trade. In this hypothetical scenario, you would still only have the information available at the time. That is, you wouldn't know Mario Hezonja or Stanley Johnson would turn out to be terrible. You just wouldn't have picked Okafor. What would yours be?
I mean, it's Okafor. I think information at the time, especially, makes it like we knew right away, like that was not good. We weren't excited about that.
But then you end up taking probably Porzingis or something, right? I mean, like you don't take Devin Booker at.
No,
like
they wouldn't take him that high. No, for sure. Yeah. It would have been Porzingis or Justice Winslow or something like that. Yeah, it just if you got a rotation player there who didn't play center with Noel and Embiid, then I think that would have been like just a sizable win compared to what it was. And because we now know that part of the NBA cracking down on Hinkie was like this maelstrom of and Okafor's speeding and getting into a fight and all that stuff.
When he wouldn't even I bet if we asked him truthfully, he would admit that he would have handled that a little bit differently. Like he didn't even, when they had him to a press release on that stuff, he wouldn't even put his name on it because he didn't want to do a press release on it.
And Zaire Mikal, like that was a defensible trade. Like Mikal was a better player by a lot at that point, and I liked him more. But Zaire was a very impressive prospect at the time, and they got to get a first round pick to move down only a little bit, and then they used that pick to then add to their holster of getting like the guy, even though it became Tobias. It's still a defensible trade. The Okafor was not defensible. It wasn't a defensible pick, and obviously if Fultz became the player he was in college, then we would be having a very different discussion. So that was not a bad knowing the information we know like at the time. It's Okafor. It was wrong then. It was wrong now. It's very clear.
I think if one could have changed the trajectory, though, well, but if Okafor doesn't do that, then maybe they still have Hinkie and maybe like all of that. I do think that there is an argument, a pretty sound argument to be made for Fultz, though you wouldn't have been able to take Tatum. And then I think you could make a sound dominoes article for Ben, because I think it did prevent them from getting what they needed to get, even though he's a good player. I think you could make an argument that if they had not done that, they could be closer to where they are, where they need to be, even considering the.
Done what? Sorry, if they had not done what, I think
if they had not picked Ben, if they had not
picked Ben,
yeah,
instead picked who?
I don't know. Even if you take Ingram, yeah, like I think like Ingram's value is much higher than Simmons's is now, and I think if he's playing with Embiid, it just is.
Yeah, I mean right now, but 6 months ago it wasn't. Like I don't agree. I don't think that. I think that the Simmons pick and up until the Hawk series was the right pick, and Ingram remains to be seen how he can contribute to winning in a positive way. And I think that at the time it was still the right move then.
And I also think having Ingram wouldn't have prevented you from getting the player that you need to get. And I think having Simmons
Fultz was that player too.
But he wasn't. I guess what I'm saying is that like
the question is like the information you knew at the time, right? And so at the time, Fultz was exactly that player. And so
right, but remember we were
in the middle for that.
We were even doing the bullshit where JJ Redick was being announced as like a fucking forward or something, so Ben could get named point guard. Like I just do think that, and this is just a difference in how I think about it and how you think about it. It's fine. I just think that the desire to put him in that spot prevented them from improving that spot, and that spot is the most important spot. And I think you could have survived the other things if you thought about that differently. But who knows? Like maybe if they just approach Ben differently in the beginning, we'll never know how much of this was him and how much of this was them. We'll never know. And finally, I don't think I've ever asked you this question. Do you like stand-up comedy? Have you ever tried it? And who is your favorite stand-up comic?
We talked about this before. I've tried it a couple times, like 4 or 5, but not in the last like 8 years or something. I don't really like it that much. I watch it occasionally. Like I used to like Mulaney. I think he's gotten worse. Obviously he's going through what he's going through, not separately from that. There's a bunch of people I like, but I can't think of them right now. I'm not a stand-up guy for sure. And I feel like, especially like the culture around stand-up is pretty toxic in a way that makes me want to stay away.
I enjoy stand-up. I enjoy going to see stand-up. My favorite actually was Norm Macdonald. May he rest in peace. I like sort of like weird stand-up. I do like sometimes being the only person that's laughing in the crowd. I do enjoy that. I did see a guy the other night, Craig Carton and Evan Roberts did a comedy night in New York at Gotham. And there was a guy, everybody was good, but there was a guy named Nathan McIntosh. If you're looking for a newer guy that is funny, I thought he was really, really funny, and definitely had a different sort of delivery than people I've seen. But I do enjoy stand-up. I tried it once. I will never do it again. It was the scariest thing in my whole life. I think I found that it's much easier to do in a crowd full of people that, like, if it's crowded. If it's not crowded, it can get really, really hard. It was fucking the scariest thing in my whole life. And I've played in bands and I've been on stages in other capacity, but stand-up comedy was the most horrifying thing I've ever done. I'll never do it again. All right. Media day is Monday. Camp starts. There's, Sam Amico reported that the feeling around the league that a Ben trade is happening this week. So I just want it to happen. Yeah, that's what he reported. So that's the feeling. I just want it to happen. So I just don't want to fucking talk. I want to talk about the team. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I'm the first that we had Jordan Liggins on to talk about the WNBA playoffs last week. Playoffs are in full swing. Great games on Thursday. Now there's another great game. Storm, Mercury, Lynx, Sky. Single elimination tomorrow, which I will be watching alongside football. Very sporty weekend, and I hope that is paired with a nice Sixers trade.
Go Sports. Go Sports. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, lick face.